She looked like she had been waiting to die. Her skin, a pearlescent shimmer of violet and silver, was stretched too still over angular cheekbones. Frost had painted her lips pale blue, but they were parted slightly, like she was whispering to a lover in her sleep. And yet, when I touched her, she breathed. Not just air, but memory, longing, something ancient and beautiful. In that frozen instant, before the alarm screamed and before the silence broke, I knew one thing: I couldn't let her go back to death. The salvage log ticked quietly in my earpiece. Orion Hail. Entry 423. Derelict vessel located drifting on Vector 803, designated Seraphis. No signs of life. Boarding initiated. Interior, unstable atmosphere. Low thermal output. No response to standard hails. I'd been alone out here for a long time, too long. When the Federation mothballed their outersphere routes, independent haulers like me were left picking through the skeletons of fallen empires and forgotten wars. The Seraphis was supposed to be just another ghost ship. Cold. Empty. Worth maybe a few tech modules, if the pirates hadn't already stripped it. But I was wrong. The moment I stepped through the ruptured airlock, I felt something different. Not a presence exactly, but a pull like the ship wanted me to find something. Or someone. I moved slowly down the dark corridor, light from my helmet casting sharp angles against the curved walls. The architecture was alien elegant, almost organic. Panels pulsed faintly beneath layers of frost. There were no bodies, no blood. Just silence. And then, at the end of the corridor, a stasis pod, fractured, power flickering. She was inside. Her long arms, 4 of them, were crossed over her chest. Her hair floated like silk in zero gravity, glinting silver and blue. I hesitated. The readouts were dying. Whatever had kept her in suspended animation was about to fail. For some reason, I didn't call it in. I didn't scan her. I just moved closer, slowly, instinctively. Reaching out, I brushed the back of my gloved hand across her cheek. And she gasped. The pod lights surged. Her eyes flew open, glowing a soft opalescent gold. Not wild or panicked, just heartbreakingly lost. She looked at me, really looked at me, and whispered a name I didn't understand. Theron. My voice caught in my throat. No. I'm Orion. Her pupils widened. She reached up with trembling fingers, barely touching my helmet visor, then recoiled, wincing as if the ship itself cried out. Too late, she breathed. It's already begun again. Before I could speak, the floor beneath us shuddered. Warning klaxons began to echo through the ship, slow and distorted, like the moans of something waking after centuries. I grabbed her by the waist and yanked her free from the pod. She was surprisingly light, her limbs graceful and too cold. I wrapped my thermal blanket around her shoulders. She didn't resist. Life support's failing, I muttered, scanning the deck. We need to get to my skiff. She shook her head. No, the heart. You have to reach the heart first. What heart? The core. No, she whispered. Olanther. The memory tree. If it dies, they all die. Everyone who ever lived here. Their light will be lost. I stared at her. My rational brain, the part trained to survive vacuum, blackouts, reactor meltdowns, told me to leave. Salvage the mission. Secure the asset. But her eyes, gods, those eyes. Grief and starlight. Show me. She guided me through the ship like a ghost that had returned home. Her bare feet made no sound on the ice-glazed floor. As we passed beneath crystal-veined arches, strange sigils glowed faintly on the walls, responsive to her presence. How long were you asleep? I asked. 76 cycles, she answered softly. Since the war came. Since he fell. Your mate. She nodded. Captain Veylan. Theron. He stayed behind to seal the breach, gave me the last working pod. I didn't know what to say. She wasn't just an alien. She was a widow, a relic of a civilization that had tried to preserve itself in silence and stasis. We reached a great chamber, where a crystalline tree rose from the center like a monument. It pulsed faintly with light, its branches arcing into conduits that ran into the ship's walls. Olanther, she said reverently. This is our soul vault. Memory lives in these roots. Every story, every song, every life. It must survive. I approached the base console, already flickering. Powers collapsing. If we don't stabilize the grid, this entire system's going dark. You can fix it. I'll try. But I need you to stay close. Your biosignature is probably the only thing keeping the AI from shutting me out. She stepped beside me, laying one hand on the interface. The lights brightened slightly. I began rerouting what little energy I could from my skiff's emergency cell to the central processor. As I worked, she watched me with quiet intensity. Her voice came in a whisper. "You're not afraid." "I am," I said without looking up. "But you're worth the risk." That silence that followed was deeper than vacuum. I glanced at her, and for the first time, she smiled. Then the ground trembled again, harder this time. A sudden shriek tore through the hull. "What now?" She inhaled sharply. They heard it activate. "The scavengers. They're coming." "Who?" She turned toward me slowly. "The ones who killed my crew. They never left. They've been waiting, circling, feeding on the silence." Red lights began flashing along the wall. I tightened my grip on the control rods. "Then we'd better hurry." Before she could respond, the lights went out. Only the glow from the memory tree remained, casting long, haunting shadows across her face. And in the dark, she reached for my hand. Not with desperation, but trust. "I closed my eyes to die," she whispered. "And opened them, because you touched me." My pulse thundered in my ears. Outside, the sound of metal scraping metal echoed like the knocking of a hungry beast. And somewhere far off, a voice I didn't recognize crackled over the ancient ship's channel. "Seraphis is awake." The cold was returning. Not the kind that bites skin, but the kind that settles inside the bones, silent, creeping, ancient. The kind that makes you forget the warmth of touch, the sound of a heartbeat, the reason you woke up in the first place. She clung to me as the last of the backup power blinked out. Her fingers, long and elegant, trembled over mine. I didn't speak. I only tightened my grip and guided her through the dark corridors by the glow of her skin. She was luminous now. Faint but steady. Her body gave off a silver sheen, casting dancing shadows against the alien walls. I'd never seen anything like it. Every time I looked at her, it felt like I was watching someone fall apart slowly, but beautifully, like a star collapsing into a new kind of light. We reached my skiff just as the hull behind us groaned with stress. Somewhere deep in the ship, something had moved. Or someone. Inside the cramped cabin, she hesitated. Her arms folded tightly across her chest, all four of them, a gesture that looked more like fear than modesty. "You've never been aboard a human vessel," I guessed. "No," she whispered. "Never this close to one of you." I stepped back, offering space. "It's not much. But it's warm. And alive." She moved forward hesitantly, lowering herself into the co-pilot's chair. The moment she sat, a sensor chirped. Her biosignature pulsed on the monitor, non-terrestrial, high variability. The system tried to identify her and failed. I shut it down manually. "Don't worry. No one's cataloging you." She looked at me then. Her eyes were not just beautiful, they were deep. Layered with grief, wonder, and the kind of silence only survivors carry. "You don't ask me questions," she said softly. "I figure you'll tell me when you're ready." She nodded, her fingers brushing the seat fabric curiously. "My name is Lyra." "Lyra," I repeated. It settled on my tongue like a word I was never meant to forget. "I'm Orion." "I know. You remember hearing it." She smiled faintly. "No. But it's always been in the stars. In the songs." A pause. Then she leaned forward, placing two of her hands gently on her abdomen and the other two on the armrests, almost like she was bracing herself. "You said the ship is alive," I murmured. "So is the tree. That memory core, it's not just data, is it?" "No," she whispered. "It's consciousness. An echo of everyone we've ever loved. If it fades, we fade." Outside the viewport, the black shimmer of the dead stars twinkled, reflecting against her face. "I lost someone, too," I said. My voice cracked slightly, but I didn't stop. Earth sighed. Long time ago. She was caught in a colony fire during a terror raid. I was off-world. Lyra didn't speak. She just looked at me with an ache that was somehow kinder than pity. I buried her in an orbital cryocrypt. I thought if I could stay out here long enough, I'd stop feeling the guilt. But you can't fly far enough to escape love. She reached across the console slowly, hesitantly, and placed 2 fingers on my chest. Right over the sternum. Her touch was like a quiet vow. I feel you, she said, like static between stars. The moment lingered. Then, alarm. A proximity ping shattered the stillness. I turned to the screen. 3 vessels. 1 large, armored. Cutter class. The Reclaimer. Lyra's entire body tensed. It's them. You're sure? I remember the sound of that engine. It tore through us before. They came for our memories, wanted to strip the soul core and leave us hollow. Then we're not staying. I launched the skiff from the docking lock, breaking free from Seraphis' weakened magnetic hold. The ship groaned beneath us, venting gas and light from a fresh rupture. They'll try to board, I muttered. We don't have weapons strong enough to hold them off. They don't want your ship, she said. They want me. I turned to her. They're not getting you. But you don't understand. My presence here, it's like a beacon. They'll follow it until there's nothing left. You're not a beacon, I said. You're the reason this place still has meaning. You're the reason it's still glowing at all. Her eyes shimmered again, and something invisible passed between us. Not words. Not thoughts. Just closeness. Then let me help you, she said. I can override their sensors. Send out a false distress signal. Confuse their scans. You can do that. I am bonded to the core. It listens when I speak. I nodded. All right. But we do it together. She reached across the interface and placed both palms on the signal pad. Strange glyphs pulsed across the display, symbols no human hand had programmed. Her body lit faintly, her skin glowing with threads of light, like veins of stardust flowing beneath the surface. The signal went out. False hazards. Radiation warnings. Reactor instability. All tailored to make the Reclaimer think we were seconds from detonation. They're backing off, I whispered. It's working. But then another ping. No, she said sharply. They're not retreating. They're locking on. Suddenly, the ship jolted. A force slammed us sideways. I saw the cutter's tractor beam wrap around the skiff in a tight white spiral. Damn it, I hissed. They're pulling us in. They'll kill you, Lyra said. Her voice was trembling now. They always kill the pilots. They take everything and leave ash and echoes. Not this time. I stood, grabbing the emergency toolkit and a pair of manual override clamps. I'm going to the power conduit. If I can destabilize the attractor alignment, we might slip free. You'll burn your hands. I paused at the hatch and looked back. Then you'll just have to kiss them better. She blinked, stunned. Then, slowly, she smiled. But behind that smile, I saw something else, fear. Not for herself. For me. As I stepped into the service crawlspace, her voice followed me like a thread through the dark. If this fails, Orion, remember me. Let me live in you, even if I vanish. The crawlspace lights flickered, and I whispered back. I already do. And then I threw the switch. The scream of metal against metal filled the skiff as I forced the relay clamps into override. My fingers seared under the heat through the gloves, but I didn't let go. I couldn't. The pulse of the tractor beam was too strong, dragging us like prey into the jaws of the Reclaimer. Then, resistance. A stutter in the pull. A flicker in the light. The clamps sparked as they snapped into a bypass loop, throwing the energy surge backward. The beam faltered. We spun in place, skimming along the cutter's outer shield bubble. The ship's gravity mesh fractured briefly, enough for us to drift out of alignment. Just enough. Lyra's voice crackled through my comm. You did it. You broke the lock. But there was no time to celebrate. Through the viewport, the Reclaimer adjusted, pivoting with the slow precision of a predator. Its forward bay was opening. Something inside began to move like claws unfolding. "They're launching boarders," I said. "Zero-G insertion drones." Lyra was already up, her bare feet quiet as snowfall on the skiff's deck. "They'll tear through your hull in seconds. We need to go back. To the Seraphis. That place is falling apart." "No," she said, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "It's fighting. It's waking. It will protect us, if I ask it to." I stared at her. She wasn't pleading. She believed it. And somehow, I did too. I turned the skiff sharply, ignoring every warning in my pilot's instinct, and accelerated back toward the dying ark. The boarders followed. 3 insertion pods burst from the reclaimer, sleek as bullets, their exteriors bristling with magnet claws and EMP nodules. They latched onto the Seraphis hull as we slipped inside the docking corridor. The interior lights pulsed weakly, like a heartbeat barely hanging on. We ran. The memory chamber was our only chance. The Olanther had responded to her before, maybe it would again. But the moment we reached the inner corridor, the lights above us shattered. They were already inside. Figures emerged from the darkness, tall, armored in reflective exosuits. No insignia. No faces. Just cold efficiency. One raised a scanner. "The relic is awake. Secure her." Lyra stepped behind me instinctively. I raised the plasma cutter. "You're not taking her." The figure ignored me, stepping forward. "You are irrelevant. The entity belongs to the consortium." She spoke then, not with her mouth, but her mind. The walls trembled faintly as her voice radiated out, not in words, but in memory. Suddenly, the light changed. The crystal veins in the floor ignited. Symbols lit up across the walls. The very structure of the ark shifted around us. Doorways sealed. New ones opened. "She's triggering the defense matrix," I said. "No," she whispered. "I'm asking it." The boarders moved fast, too fast. One fired. A pulse shot hit me square in the chest and threw me against the wall. I gasped, the air knocked from my lungs. "Orion." I saw her raise all 4 hands and stretch them toward the attackers. A shockwave of silver-blue light burst outward. The figures staggered. One dropped to his knees, clutching his helmet. "Run," I croaked. "Go." She didn't move. Instead, she knelt beside me and touched my chest right over my heart. "I won't leave you," she whispered. "We're not alone anymore. Not you. Not me." The light from the memory tree surged. We were lifted, cradled by the glow, and drawn back into the chamber. The doors sealed behind us just as the attackers regained their balance. Inside, the Olanther pulsed with fierce brilliance now, like a supernova restrained in crystal. "I need to interface directly," she said. "But it will hurt. It hasn't known contact in decades. I'm right here." She knelt at the base of the tree, placing her palms onto the crystalline roots. Her breath hitched. Her skin began to ripple with light. Visions flashed, fleeting, fragmented. A dance beneath twin moons. A lullaby in a language I didn't understand. A kiss shared in zero gravity. Then, screams. Fire. A captain's last stand. The memory of a hand letting go. Her memories. Their memories. The tree responded, flaring brighter. Suddenly, the walls cracked open to reveal conduit panels, weapon arrays, pulse cannons emerging from the floor. The Seraphis was no longer hiding. It was defending. The outer hull thrummed as the ship fired on the reclaimer. We could hear the distant boom of return fire. The ark shook. But something was wrong. Lyra cried out. Her hands convulsed on the root. "It's too much. Too much noise. Too much death." I rushed to her. "What do I do?" "Link with me," she gasped. "Not with words. Just feel me." She reached out and pulled me into her arms. The moment our skin touched, I fell into her. Not physically. Not spatially. It was something deeper. A plunge into memory, like falling through constellations of sorrow and hope. I saw myself through her eyes, fragile, strange, but kind. I saw her dancing under starlight, singing to flowers that glowed in response, burying her lover beneath crystal soil, unable to speak his name. Then, silence. When I opened my eyes, she was lying in my lap, breathing shallowly. Her glow had dimmed. "I'm here," I whispered. "You're not alone." Her lips moved faintly. "They're coming through, one last breach." The chamber door shuddered violently. The light above us dimmed again. And then, the Reclaimer's captain's voice rang out through the chamber. "Give me the relic, or I turn this vessel to ash." I stood slowly, my body aching, my hand reaching for the control panel. I looked down at her one last time, the curve of her shoulder still glowing faintly. "I won't let you die again." But behind me, the final lock clicked open. Captain Voss Tyran stepped into the chamber, weapon raised, his eyes cold. And at his feet, Lyra stirred weakly. Voss leveled the weapon at her head. "Step aside, human." I didn't move. She opened her eyes. "I'm not done shining yet," she whispered. And then, everything went white. Light erupted like a tidal wave, not from weapons, but from her. Lyra's body ignited in pure bioluminescence, veins of silver, violet, and starlight cascading outward in radiant spirals. The memory tree behind her responded in kind, sending pulses through every wall, every floor, every circuit. Captain Voss staggered backward, shielding his eyes. His weapon fell to the floor, seared in half by the brilliance. What is this?" I stepped in front of her, shielding her with my body even though it felt like standing in the center of a star. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't afraid. She was becoming. The Olanther had accepted her not as a relic of the past, but as its living core. A voice boomed around us, not Lyra's voice, not mine. The Seraphis had awakened. "You threaten the bearer of memory. You desecrate the echoes of 1,000 lives. You will be unmade." Voss tried to retreat, stumbling toward the corridor. But the door behind him no longer opened. A wave of force hurled him backward. His armored body struck the wall and slumped, unconscious. I turned to Lyra, who had collapsed again, now flickering like a dying flame. I dropped to my knees, gathering her in my arms. "Lyra, come on. Stay with me." She opened her eyes slowly. "I saw you. Not just now. From before. I remember your voice. Not from this life. From before. You held me, in the stars." I nodded, my throat burning. "And I'll hold you again. Just stay here." Her breath caught. "The tree, it's stabilizing, but I can't leave it. Not now. Not while it still remembers." I looked at the glowing root system around us. The Seraphis had stopped shaking. Outside, the Reclaimer was retreating, its systems overwhelmed by the psychic pulse. They were running. But we were not safe. "Then we take the tree with us," I said. She smiled weakly. "It doesn't fit in a bag." "No," I whispered, "but I know how to transfer its core." I lifted her gently and placed her next to the master conduit node. Then I ripped open my skiff's backup databank, rerouting every available circuit into an interface with the Olanther. The ship resisted at first. Its ancient systems weren't made to speak with human tech. But Lyra was the bridge. Her hands guided mine. Her voice whispered through the link. Together, we began the upload. Memories flooded the screen, visuals, songs, languages, faces both alien and familiar. "I don't want to forget any of it," she said softly. "You won't," I promised. "I'll carry it all. I'll carry you." The final sequence initiated. The core's pulse dimmed slightly, transferring, not dying. But it needed time. And time was running out. "Lyra," I said quietly, "this ship won't hold. It's given everything. We have to leave. Now." She didn't argue. She simply nodded, as if finally ready to let go of the past. We staggered through the corridors, her leaning against me, my breath shallow, limbs burning, but we didn't stop. The dock was almost gone. Cracked open like a wound. We reached the skiff just as the main engine warning began to chime. I sealed the hatch, rerouted the data drive into the onboard navcore, and hit the launch sequence. Behind us, the Seraphis began to collapse. Quietly. With dignity. No explosion. No dramatic rupture. Just a final dimming of light. The Ark had done what it was built to do. It had remembered. And passed it on. We drifted into the void, away from the wreckage, from the predator ships now retreating into hyperspace shadows. I didn't speak. Neither did she. There were no words big enough for that moment. The stars returned slowly, like old friends blinking through tears. Lyra lay curled on the bench beside me, her head resting on my shoulder. Her glow had faded to a soft pulse, gentle, steady. "I'm still here," she whispered. "I know," I said, kissing the top of her brow. "You're always going to be here." She turned her head just enough to meet my gaze. "Orion," she murmured, "do you believe in soulmates?" I hesitated. Then nodded. Yes. I just didn't think mine would be born in another galaxy. Her smile was soft and sad. "My people believe that soulmates are fragments of the same song, scattered across time, waiting to sing together again." I brushed her hair back. "Then we're finally in harmony." She leaned in and kissed me, soft, unfamiliar, but certain. And in that kiss, I felt the pulse of 1,000 voices, 1,000 lives. Not screaming. Not mourning. But singing. Later, I watched her sleep in the glow of the nav console, her bioluminescent skin illuminating the tiny cockpit like a breathing constellation. My logs would never mention what we found aboard the Seraphis. The data would remain offline. The drive hidden. Because some treasures aren't meant for governments or profit. Some are meant for hearts. Lyra stirred and reached for my hand in her sleep. And I knew, wherever we went next, asteroid colonies, star bridges, forgotten moons, it didn't matter. Because home wasn't a planet anymore. Home was a heartbeat beside mine. Where stardust ends and skin begins, we would write galaxies of our own. Together.